Hello, and welcome to another one of my training videos. Today we're going to talk about managing student behaviors. The key components to managing student behaviors are: 1. Timely and effective management of student behavior is critical for effective instruction to take place within a classroom. To start with, always model what you expect the students to follow. This will send a clear and concise message of how you want the students to behave. For a teacher to manage student behavior effectively, we must not only model the expectations, but have a knowledge of the students that we are teaching. So let's get started. Once again, building those student relationships is a fundamental component of a well-managed classroom. Teachers must be aware and practice a variety of techniques to maintain appropriate behaviors, which are dependent upon having knowledge of each individual student. Throughout this video, I'm going to have you reflect on 4 fundamental questions, which in turn will help you to see if your classroom management plan is working for those in your classroom. So question number 1, what systems are in place to effectively monitor student behavior? The structure of your classroom will make a huge difference in how your students respond to the routine and the makeup of the classroom. First, set your procedures and then train the students. This may take up to a month to 6 weeks, depending on the grade level you teach. The following is a list of common classroom procedures that need to be in place starting the first day of school. Expectations of how they come into the classroom, where their supplies and backpacks go, the process of going to the bathroom, expectations when asking questions, how to move from one activity to the other, how to leave the classroom, how to turn in assignments, and the process for late or make-up policies. There are several ways to respond and monitor to student behaviors that will not only assist the students in understanding the expectations of proper classroom behavior without losing any instructional time. Structured agendas make sure that your instructional time is structured in a way that students stay on task and are clear with times and expectations throughout the day or class period. Students thrive in structured environments. Nonverbal clues. We are all experts at the teacher's look, but my favorite nonverbal clue is to move around the room while I am instructing and when students are working. Those students that are talking while you are talking, just getting into their space will reduce the amount of talking when they are supposed to be working. Use the students' names. Just using a student's name in a positive way, such as John, what do you think about this topic, can get the students' attention and help them refocus on the task at hand. Clear traffic patterns. Set up your classroom so there are no obstacles in the way when you roam the entire room or when you need to get to a specific student or group of students quickly. And then monitor from the back of the room. Sometimes just instructing from the back of the room will enable the students to sit up a little straighter, and it gives you a different view on what the students are doing from behind them that they don't see from the front of the room, that you don't see from the front of the room. So there are many different types of checklists that you can also use throughout the day, such as running record, observation notes, evaluation notes, formative and summative assessments, student self-evaluations, and then behavior intervention plans. So question number 2, how do you plan to address inappropriate behavior should that become an issue during the lesson? Dealing with inappropriate behavior can be very challenging, but there are many strategies, tips, and techniques that can be used to handle bad behavior. Some of these strategies are preventative, which others can be used during instructional time. So let's set the stage. First, establish a positive, supportive classroom atmosphere. Students are more likely to follow directions, work hard, and exhibit positive classroom behavior when they feel wanted and appreciated by the teacher. Establish a clearly defined set of rules and consequences. If the student knows exactly what is expected of them and exactly what will happen if they act out, they are less likely to cause problems. Organize the classroom. The classroom should be free of unnecessary distractions, not cluttered, and easy to get around in. This should help maintain student focus. And of course, get to know your students. Knowing their personalities, abilities, and backgrounds can greatly enhance your decision making. So when responding to student behavior, first we need to identify the exact problem. Claiming that a student has a bad attitude is too vague to be easily dealt with. Getting to the root of the problem may involve a conversation with the student or working with the guidance of a counselor. Use positive responses for positive behavior. Pointing out and rewarding good behavior can be an effective way of reducing bad behavior. 3. Keep the kids busy and engaged in the material. As much as possible, students should have a sense that what they are learning is interesting and important. A student that is engaged in the subject matter is less likely to act out. A teacher that is excited and engaging himself or herself helps tremendously in this aspect. Another technique for attempting to keep students interested is to give them some control over the happenings in the classroom. A student that feels a sense of ownership in a task is less likely to disrupt it. Using physical proximity to curb bad behavior is another very effective strategy. If two students are talking while you are trying to speak, simply continue what you are saying, but move closer to the students. Students are less likely to act inappropriate when the teacher is right next to them. Question number 3. How does your grouping enhance student behaviors? Teachers are discovering that grouping and regrouping students in a variety of ways throughout the school day actually makes their job easier and makes their students more productive. Flexible grouping is a range of grouping students together for delivering instruction. This can be accomplished as a whole class, small groups, or with a partner. Flexible grouping means a lot of pre-planning. Teachers need to look at assessment data, test results, student needs, and abilities in order to determine the group size. It's essential when grouping students to not place them in the same group for every activity. The key to successful grouping is to be flexible so you can meet each individual's needs. Here are a few things to consider when you create your flexible groupings. Ask yourself, what is the best type of configuration to meet my learning outcome for this activity? Consider a teacher-led group, whole class, small group, or an individual teacher-directed activity, or a student-led group, collaborative, performance-based, or even in pairs. Evaluate all assessment data and look over student learning profiles to help you form groups. Identify the most effective grouping design. For example, group students by gender, previous group, student selection, or teacher selection. Successful grouping does not happen overnight. It takes a little bit of planning and classroom management skills. As you group your students for differentiated instruction, consider the following tips. Create a color-coded system or chart to help you and students know which groups they're in. Give specific instruction about the task groups must perform. Post written instructions and expectations so you don't have to repeat yourself. Model and practice routines and procedures for getting into and out of groups. Develop a routine so your classroom isn't utter chaos after a group task is completed. Set a specific time limit for students to complete their group work. It's best to set an alarm so students know when the alarm goes off, they must proceed to the next activity quietly. Implement a student learning log for each group they are in. A color-coded one works best for students to keep track of and record what they have completed in each group. So question 4, what part does motivation play in student behavior? There are two different types of motivation, intrinsic and extrinsic. Both of these are important in understanding how students are motivated. which in turn will help you in maintaining a well-maintained classroom. Intrinsic motivation includes a fascination with the subject, a sense of its relevance to life and the world, a sense of accomplishment in mastering it, and a sense of calling to it. Extrinsic motivation includes parental expectations, expectations of other trusted role models, earning potential grade of the course of study, and their grades. So the following are some research-based strategies for motivating students to learn. So first, become a role model for your students' interests. Deliver your presentations with energy and enthusiasm. As a display of your motivation, your passion motivates your students. Make the course personal, showing why you're interested in the material. Once again, get to know your students. You'll be able to better tailor your instruction to the students' concerns and backgrounds, and your personal interest in them will inspire their personal loyalty to you. Display a strong interest in student learning and faith in their abilities. Use examples freely. Many students want to be shown why a concept or technique is useful before they want to study it further. Inform students about how your course prepares students for future opportunities. Use a variety of student-active teaching techniques. These activities directly engage students in the material and give them opportunities to achieve level of mastery, such as teach by discovery. Students find as satisfying as reasoning through a problem and discovering their underlying principle on their own. Or cooperative learning, flexible grouping activities are particularly effective as they also provide positive social pressure. Set realistic performance goals and help students achieve them by encouraging them to set their own reasonable goals. Design assignments that are appropriately challenged in view of the experience and aptitude of the class. Place appropriate emphasis on testing and grading. Tests should be a means of showing what students have mastered, not what they have not. Avoid grading on the curve and give everyone the opportunity to achieve the highest standard in grades. Be free with praise and constructive criticism. Negative comments should pertain to particular performances, not the performer. Offer non-judgmental feedback on students' work. Stress opportunities to improve. Look for ways to stimulate advancement and avoid dividing students into sheep and goats. Give students as much control over their own education as possible. Let students choose paper and project topics that interest them. Access them in a variety of ways through tests, papers, projects, presentations, to give students more control over how they show their understanding to you. Give students options for how these assignments are weighted. So as you are running your classroom, here are some examples of a well-behaved classroom, a well-managed classroom. Students are consistently well-behaved and on task. Teachers and students establish clear rules for learning and behavior. The teacher uses several classroom management techniques to maintain appropriate student behavior. The teacher overlooks inconsequential behavior. The teacher deals with students who have caused disruptions rather than the entire class. And the teacher attends to disruptions quickly and firmly. I hope you enjoyed your time with me today, and I hope you will join me again in the coming weeks. As always, please visit my webpage and blog for the latest updates, and have a wonderful day.